welcome back to our Choice of Entity webcast series. The next issue I want to address is liability protection. This is obviously an important issue for all new business owners in deciding what type of entity they want to choose. Can they protect their personal assets from the risks and liabilities associated with their business? So, generally, sole proprietorships and general partnerships, they provide no limited liability protection. The owner of the sole proprietorship or the owners of the general partnership, their personal assets are at risk from any liabilities associated with the business. Again, there's no formal requirements that you need to form these entities, so therefore you're not going to get any liability protection. The limited partnership is kind of a hybrid when it comes to liability protection. The general partners in the limited partnership, they manage the day-to-day operations of the business, and they are personally liable for the risks associated with the business. So it does not provide any personal liability protection for the general partners. However, the limited partners, because they're not managing the day-to-day operations, they do get limited liability protection from the risks associated with the business. That's assuming that they don't overstep their bounds and actually start performing managerial or operational duties and making decisions. If they do, then they will lose that limited liability protection and they'll be treated like general partners, and then their personal assets will be at risk for the liabilities of the business. Corporations and limited liability companies, for the most part, they are the types of entities that do afford their owners limited liability protection. Their personal assets are, for the most part, protected from the liabilities of the company. There are, however, important exceptions to this rule. The first is voluntary obligations, when you voluntarily accept liabilities. For instance, personal guarantees. If one of these entities needs to borrow money from a bank, it's very common that the bank is going to require a personal guarantee from the owner. That is a voluntary acceptance of that liability that you would normally not have. Another one is so-called piercing the corporate veil. In order to obtain the liability protection, there are formalities that need to be maintained and complied with in how you operate the business. These are separate legal entities from the shareholders and members themselves. They have to be respected as separate legal entities. If the owners don't respect the separateness of it and start treating these entities as a mere extension of themselves, then a court or a potential plaintiff can also treat them as a mere extension of themselves, and then they'll lose that limited liability protection. It's called piercing the corporate veil, and you have to make sure that you're complying with the formalities in order to avoid that. So basically, as a summary, sole proprietorship and general partnership provide no liability protections for the owners. Corporations and limited liability companies do, provided that you stay within the bounds and formalities to keep that limited liability protection. And limited partnerships do, to some extent, they do provide limited liability protection for the limited partners, but not for the general partners.